Okay, here's the deal. You know this as a parent. You've got a lot going on, too much going on. And when your kid comes with another big reaction, another request, another moment where they need something, it sends me over the edge. And I don't have the capacity or the patience or the compassion. And now think about your kid. They've got a lot going on as well. We wanted to attack that. We wanted to understand that better. So what you're going to see, what you're going to watch for the next 22, 23 minutes is a really important conversation that I have with my friend and therapist and coach and consultant, Charlie Ruce, around how to understand what our kids are going through and reframe the way in which we parent them. He has incredible, practical, relevant tips and ways for us to understand what's going on with our kids and how to parent them, nurture them, care for them, and then ultimately what we care about is to give our kids the tools and everything that they need to build a meaningful life. So thanks for joining us. Get ready. You're going to want to take notes. Hey, Charlie, thank you for joining on this webinar. I think the main universal problem we are all dealing with as parents is our kids. I mean, it's we've had them now for a while, and we've particularly been in this unique time for almost 2 years now of incredible stress. And you have a background, you can tell us a little bit in therapy and coaching and consulting. I'm curious from your perspective, how do you see what's happening right now to us and to our kids?
Yeah, well, Scott, like you said, my background's in I'm a licensed therapist. I was previously the clinical director at the Soul Care House here in San Diego, and have really shifted my practice, as you said, from the therapy world into the coaching and consulting world, working with organizations and really trying to create this kind of moving from creating healthy people as the goal to creating healthy organizations. And so emotionally healthy, emotionally intelligent organizations. And so a big part of people, kids, organizations being healthy is having healthy nervous systems. And in
Huh.
the past couple years, what we have seen is the amount of intensity and complexity in our world and in our country go sky high. And when the amount of complexity and intensity goes sky high, our nervous systems feel that. And we usually feel it in the form of more fight energy, like anger, frustration, irritation, more flight energy, like
Yep.
fear, worry, insecurity, anxiety, or more freezy energy, like overwhelm, collapse, I don't want to do anything, lethargic, low energy.
Huh.
And so
Okay.
when we're talking about like uh, our kids, what we would expect is that their nervous systems are now having to process and deal with a massive increase in complexity and intensity. And similar to working out, if you can lift 100 pounds comfortably and your trainer says, sorry, Scott, today we're doing 125, whether you like it or not,
Mm-hmm.
we would expect your body to go, oh no,
Mm-hmm.
that's more than I'm comfortable with. That means I'm going to be sore and tired and need more rest.
Yep.
And it's the same thing. It's and a lot of these ideas that we're going to be talking about, by the way, come from the model called organic intelligence, which was founded by Steve
Yep.
Hoskinson, and I've been training in that model since 2014.
Some of the stuff you're talking about, I don't want to sound like a devil's advocate, but life is hard in general. It's hard to be a parent and it's hard to be a kid, particularly a teenager. There's risk, threat, stress all the time. But what you're talking about is different. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's uh, and that's what people push back on with mental health and therapy all the time is oh yeah, we all have worries, we all have anxiety, yeah, we all have low energy sometimes, we all get a little depressed, we all and yeah, that's true. And so what we have to understand is that there's levels of severity. We have a scale. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's your average everyday worry and anxiety. And then there's uh, an anxiety disorder and panic attacks. And, people can have scale of 1 to 10. You can have level 3, 4, 5, 10 of anxiety, overwhelm, stress,
Sure.
irritation, anger. And the same thing is true right now. It's like, yeah, of course, life is hard. And kids have to learn skills and learn how to navigate a difficult world. But in the last 2 years, that got way, way harder. So it's one
Mm-hmm.
thing to say, hey, mom and dad, I need to work figure out my relationships and how to have good friendships. I need to figure out school and how to manage my schedule,
Yep.
learn all the stuff I have to learn. I'm trying to navigate extracurricular activities. I'm trying to navigate a changing, growing body that's having hormone changes and all that stuff all the
Yeah.
time. Trying to navigate relationships with my siblings and parents, and on and on. So we'll take
Hmm.
those, and school is on, school is
And
off. I'm learning by video.
yeah.
My family's sick. Maybe I'm going through the death of someone. Everyone's scared. The political system is super intense. Mom and dad are on edge more.
Right.
We're adding, being a kid is super hard, and then we're going to add in
Yeah.
these major issues.
And one key part I think there is all everything you just said is true. Sounds normal, but it's not as though our kids tell us that, as a narrator to their overreactions to things. It would be nice
Sure.
in the moment for our kid to be able to say, "Hey, you know what, mom and dad, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by today.
Yeah.
We had a drill we had to do, and some kid said my shirt looked stupid, and I caught a clip of the news that maybe we're going to go back to virtual school." And they don't say that. They just, like, as a scenario recently, we informed one of our kids that we weren't going to be able to take them to school early, extra early, like they prefer. And that news sent our kid into just absolute,
Yeah.
freak out, yelling, "You're bad parents," the whole thing. And our interpretation of that was, "How dare you talk to us that way?"
Right.
And so you see these clashes. Maybe you could just kind of give me a little free therapy for a second on that one.
Well, yeah, and I think what you said is key. It's like our interpretation. What does that mean? And so you see a lower resiliency, and parents have trouble with this all the time. Oh, that means they don't respect me. That's why they're reacting like this. Oh, it
Right.
means they're insubordinate. It means they don't have discipline. It means
Uh-huh.
they're not obeying God. It means they're just bad kids. It means, and
Right.
what if it means they're exhausted? What if it means their resiliency is
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
lower now? What if it means they're under severe stress? What if it means
Yeah.
they're not coping well and are having a lot more freeze and anxiety on their nervous systems from how complex the
Yeah.
world is? Then it's not personal. Then it's just they're suffering, and it's coming
Yeah.
out in ways they don't even know it. First of all, they don't know they're suffering. They don't have the kids don't have the
Yeah.
emotional intelligence to go, that's interesting. My state inwardly is changing. I'm wanting to
Yeah.
react in ways that are hard on my parents. I wonder if there's other strategies I can
Right.
work through to process this better. Those are
Right.
skills you and I have learned through
Yeah.
years of inner work.
Sort of.
And so, yeah, yeah. And even then,
Work in progress.
yeah, even then, it's a massive work in progress. And so, and
Yeah.
of all the parents I know you're teaching these emotionally healthy and emotional intelligent principles to your kids, but they're kids. And so,
Right.
can, does a 10, 11, 12, 15-year old
Uh-huh.
know how to articulate their inner experience and what they're going through? No, you have to interpret it because they're not going to.
Yeah. One of the other, I think, maybe poor interpretations I know I make, and I know talking to a bunch of friends, when our kids are having a particular hard time. Kids, maybe you have a kid that gets really scared and anxious to go to school in the morning, or maybe you got a kid that's got some digestive issues before a certain event, or a kid that's like tanking school and just not turning stuff in. I think the interpretation for me is often, what am I doing wrong? How have I been blowing it? Have I been missing something? And it's not as much about my kids blowing it; it's about me. I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, I think it is hard to have what I think we'd call like an oriented perspective of reality, like a true
Yeah,
present perspective of reality. What is true? Meaning, what is my part as the parent? I might play a part. I might be under stress. I might be more irritable.
yeah,
I might be
yeah, yeah.
pushing at them in ways that are unhelpful. It might have nothing to do with me. And it might be
Uh-huh.
they're struggling, or their classroom environment has changed, or they're sick, or they have
Yeah,
uh, by nature, biologically, higher levels of anxiety and depression that they were born with. And it has nothing to do with my parenting. And so,
sure.
in a lot of ways, modern psychotherapy tends to reduce kids' struggles down to parents. It's the
Huh.
parents, which is good. A family systems perspective says, let's look at the family system and see if the
Hmm.
symptomology, the anxiety, the depression, the reactivity, is coming
Yeah,
out of something wrong in the family. That's a good perspective.
Yeah.
It's just if we always go there, pretty soon mom and dad start to feel beat
Huh.
up. Like, I guess it's my screw up again.
Right.
Versus, no, our
Right.
kids are really, really complex. They have their own internal biology, their own
Mm.
hormones and vitamins and minerals, and we can have deficiencies. Some things need medication.
Yeah.
We can have friendship issues, personality differences. The
Yeah.
Enneagram, as you know, is helpful to figure out by
Yeah.
nature, is my kid just lack resiliency in some area? So I think it's healthy for parents to say, what's my part? But
Yeah.
when we split on it and it becomes it's the parents
Uh-huh.
all the time, well, that's a good recipe for
Right.
shame and feelings of failure and what's wrong with me and
Yeah. Not productive.
not productive.
So if it's not necessarily a discipline issue, for instance, my kid who's freaking out about not getting to school on time, and our reaction is, how dare you talk to us that way, therefore your phone is gone, or you can't watch this, or you can't go play with that kid. Like, my first gut reaction is a discipline. How, maybe give you some practical steps in between
Yeah.
shutting down their social life and understanding what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, if we sort of zoom out and think about the level of intensity coming out of our kids is the issue, right? It's like you're feeling intensity and then you're doing
Yeah.
something, saying something, doing something, hitting, yelling, crying, screaming, pouting, pushing back, arguing. That's
Yeah.
coming from this intensity. And then what a parent typically wants to do is inhibit it. I don't want that
Yes.
much intensity. So I want to
Right.
put the lid on the boiling pot and be like, that's unacceptable. Don't do that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Which at
And my way to do that, which I think is a lot of parents, in order to inhibit them, get them to be quiet, get them to calm down, I get bigger, I get more intense.
yeah,
So
which
somehow if I can just kind of
yeah, yeah. I want a lower intensity in the environment, so I'll be more intense. It's like
yeah,
that
yeah,
usually doesn't work real well, right? But that's most parent
mm,
strategy is just I'll get big so they get smaller and
right,
that can work, of course. And at times
yeah,
a simple inhibition is needed. You're in a social environment and
yeah, right,
middle church
lock
and
it
they
down.
start fighting and it's like, stop it.
Mhm.
Don't do that. Like
Yeah,
that's you can't do that here.
right,
But if
right,
that's my only strategy, I'll just inhibit, inhibit,
mm,
inhibit. There isn't uh, that doesn't usually resolve the intensity of what's going on. It doesn't help them
mm,
learn to manage it
yeah,
better. And so sometimes, they might need to be, you might need to have a conversation and say, um, I can tell that you're upset and something's going on. You seem a little different, and that's okay. It makes sense. A lot of validation. That's
mm,
normal. I wouldn't blame you for being upset based on everything that's going on in our family and the world. Um,
mm,
it might be normal to be experiencing fear and anger and just to be more bothered and tired and what happened and uh,
yeah,
what is going on inside and helping them identify that, helping them name it, helping them express
yeah,
it in a different way, um, processing the feelings with them versus just trying to stop them from
right,
having the feelings.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have My wife and I particularly have been working on doing that work ourselves for them. So when we overreact, when I get really loud and intense, and I have more tools than they do, I have more perspective. I can tell when there's things that have contributed to me having these big overreactions. I didn't sleep well. I've got a deadline. I've got someone I think is upset with me at work. I've got a mom who wants me to go visit. Like there's these series
Right.
of things, and then the kid asks me for something that I can't give right now, or I don't want to give, or it causes some complexity in my life. Like, now I have to pick you up here and take you there, and I have this big reaction. We're trying to come back later and say, hey, let me just kind of process for you all the contributing factors and let you know that I didn't handle that well.
Right.
I That's maybe one of the kind of drum beats in the U school is it's what we model that we're going to see repeated in our kids' lives. What would you say towards that?
I think that's right. You can't give what you don't have. And so if you want to give your kids the
Yeah,
tools and ability to process emotions, but you don't have the tools and ability to process your own emotions, it's
yeah,
going to be hard. And so obviously
yeah,
learn those for yourself so that you know how to manage your inner states and your emotions and what's going on.
yeah,
And then yeah, walk them through that, model it, make
right,
the repair as necessary if you have an overreaction so they know how to apologize and repair,
hmm,
um,
hmm,
which is what I think you're talking about.
Yeah.
know how to come back and say, hey, that was a little too intense. I'm sorry. Here's what's going on with me.
Yeah.
Be able to, that self-reflection capacity. I mean, those are really, really valuable, emotionally intelligent tools that most
Yeah.
parents don't have, and certainly most kids don't have, but they're so valuable
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
feeling better and having better relationships and learning how to navigate a very complex world.
Yeah.
Self-reflection, self-awareness, managing relationships, apologies, repair, healthy conflict. Those tools are invaluable.
Yeah.
And I think the U School does address all of them.
Hmm. Maybe this is too simplistic, but if you're stuck in a moment and your kid's having a big reaction or is any version of the fight or flight or freeze, are there steps that we can take?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the big issue right now in our sort of collective nervous system is I don't think we're coming all the way down hardly ever. Most of us, meaning there is
Mm,
no full deactivation in our nervous systems. We are staying up
mm,
at a level of intensity sort of all the time.
yeah.
And that has big impacts on our adrenal glands and our resiliency and our capacity to just
Mm,
function in healthy ways. And it wears us down. And so, first of all, we when the intensity goes way up, like if I'm going to bump up my workouts and make them much harder, I have to bump
mhm,
up my rest, recovery,
mm,
sleep. I've read that
yeah.
power lifters sleep 15 hours a day. It's like
Hmm,
if we're going to put that much toll on our nervous
yeah.
systems, we have to balance it out with how much we're coming down. More relaxation,
Mm,
downtime, sleep, rest. And usually we don't do that. We just add on one side
yeah.
and hope for the best. And so, first, we'd want to be able to say, like, hey, let's make sure that we are changing our rhythms of life to rebalance the
Mm,
intensity. If we're going to go up more intensely, we better be coming down more intensely. If we're
yeah.
already doing that and we're getting big spikes of intensity from our kids, well, yeah, now we have to figure out what are we going
Mm,
to do with that. And um,
mm,
it can depend on the kid, but some kids need a lot of help, like with framing what's happening, and because their systems want to
okay.
make things kind of everything a really big deal. And so they might
Huh.
need your help saying like, hey, I get it, you're upset, but that person actually meant well, they like you a lot, that
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
personal, or I know it's so hard for your when your siblings do that, and it can feel like
Mm,
are they don't like you, and they don't,
mhm,
but they're little and they struggle. So some kids need like
mhm.
perspective, what we call like structuring. Other kids
Okay.
might need like, hey, let's go outside and just throw stuff. Let's just be mad, be
Yeah.
upset. Like, let's just
Yeah.
express. Let's
Yeah.
get it out. Let's actually let that
Mm,
happen because you need an environment to do that. Some
mm,
kids might just need you to like, you know what? Let's just go get some ice cream and talk and
mm,
just get some
yeah.
personal time and more physical touch, more support, more
Yeah.
comfort. And it can be hard to know like what does your nervous system need to um, to move through this intensity. But and a lot of it's trial and error. That's part of getting to know your kid and what they
Right.
respond to.
Yep.
What they respond to yesterday, they won't respond the same to today.
Yep.
What they need, and that's called attunement in the therapy world. You're sending out a radio frequency, and I'm
Mm,
trying to pick up on it. What can I
mm,
do to be supportive to you? And that frequency changes, and so my response has to change. That's hard. Like it's hard as a
yeah.
therapist. My clients come in, they're in different places from week to week, and it's my job to figure out where are you, what do you need.
Mm,
Sometimes I miss. That's okay, people are resilient. But
yeah.
maybe your son comes to you one day and he's really upset, and you go with validation. I'm sorry, yeah, life's hard,
Mm,
that's really hard. He's like, you don't get it, Dad.
yeah.
You're like, okay,
Right.
validation's not the thing. Maybe I'll share a personal story. Hey, I've been there.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was
Uh,
little and your grandpa was hard on me, and like, oh, Dad, I'm so tired of your
uh,
stories. It's like, hmm,
right.
okay. Hey, why don't we go outside and just throw the football and like get some of this energy out? I don't want to play
Yeah.
football. I want to play video games.
Right.
You're just what's needed, and and um,
Yeah.
and so you have to. What we're trying to do ultimately is get our nervous systems to go up and come down, go up and come down,
Mm,
and so sometimes we have to like push it up a little bit. Sometimes we just need to come all the way down, and we need support and help to do that. Sometimes we need comfort. Sometimes we need to be validated.
Mm.
Sometimes we need uh, to feel like we're not the only one going through it. And sometimes it's
Yeah.
honestly what can be hard for parents is it's like you don't have what they need.
Mm.
A friend might, a sibling might, a mentor might. We used to
Right.
live in a much more tribal type of environment where you
Uh-huh.
had 50 other
Yep.
adults who might be able to weigh in. Now we've
Right.
got maybe four, and that's
Yep.
hard, which is, I know the U school also talks about, you need,
Yep.
there needs to be multiple adults who can speak in because parents can't give their kids everything. And so,
Right. This is so helpful, Charlie. Thank you for your time and your ability to take these very complex things and make them understandable and
mm,
practical. Maybe my last question is to close out. Is there one thing you wish parents knew or understood better about biology and the nervous system?
I think what I would say, Scott, if there's one thing I wish parents knew better would be put bonding before behavior. And so
Hmm.
focus more than anything on creating that safe, secure bond through
Hmm.
lots of touch, lots of eye contact, lots of time. And if that
Yeah.
foundation is there, we're going to have a lot easier time
Hmm.
helping them work through their intensity. And so,
Hmm.
meaning, we want to create, it's kind of like if you want a plant to grow really well, before you
Yeah.
plant the seeds, enough sunlight, enough water, good
Yeah.
soil. If you have those, your the chance of success with that seed is way higher. But if
Right.
it's like
Right.
when my kid flies off the handle, I want to make sure I can be really helpful to their biology. It's like, well, what are the initial
Hmm.
conditions? Like, do we even have the groundwork laid for that to happen? And so,
Yeah.
um, if it is, if you've already laid that groundwork and your kids are still really struggling, then I'd probably say um, the name of the game is figuring out how do we help them process that intensity. We don't just
Yeah.
want to shut it down. That we
Yeah.
need to support it. Like a lot of parents aren't comfortable with their kids' emotions, and so I would say
Hmm.
like we want to get good at making space for their intensity, helping them deal with it. Some of our kids are very intense people.
Yeah.
That's okay, but the answer is not shut it down. It's
Mm.
also not just
Mm.
go at it. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
well, we want to support it, help them manage it, learn to,
Hmm.
like, we're going to have intense experiences, but that doesn't mean we have to behave out of those experiences super intensely.
Yeah.
So create the conditions for safety and then learn how to process that intensity in helpful ways, both for yourself and for them.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's what I'd say.
helpful. We've got we're going to take the best of what you shared, put it into the notes, almost like a little cheat sheet to take with you. So if you were taking notes, awesome. If not, don't worry, we'll send it to you.
And
And maybe you're a part of an organization, a company. Go ahead.
I was going to say we can also do a part two.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure. Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. So I was going to say, if you're part of an organization, company, and you've got some issues, got some something's just not clicking, something's not working, we're trying to get to the next level, it's not happening, go check out charlieruce.com and think about bringing Charlie in. So thanks, Charlie, for your time, friendship, and incredible wisdom.
You bet. It's been great. Thanks, Scott.
We're taking the mystery out of building a meaningful life with a step-by-step roadmap. In school, you're taught everything under the sun, from algebra to art history to aerodynamics, but you're not taught how to understand yourself or given the tools to make sense of all the questions life throws your way. Without it, most people will take the path of least resistance, hoping it all just works out someday. That's why the U School is here. For over 10 years, we've been specializing in designing transformative curriculum and learning environments to guide people through life's transitions to find, define, and unleash great stories with their lives. You only get one life, you only get one story. Make sure it's the right one.